Memoir, June 12, 2003, approximately 3 o'clock. A massive white humanoid, initially called the weapon but since renamed the giant, falls from the sky above Tokyo Shinjuku Ward, inflicting tremendous damage. At the same time, a large creature, henceforth referred to as the dragon, appears and engages the giant in combat, though both of the nature of its attacks and their utility remain unclear. As the self-defense force contemplates methods by which they might attack the target, the government establishes the Bureau of Emergency Countermeasures. Memoir, June 12, 2003, approximately 4 o'clock. The giant, which was roped in combat with the dragon, suddenly begins to collapse for reasons unknown. The dragon is then shot down by the 6th Division, 303 Squadron of the Air Self-Defense Force. No official records exist of who issued the order to attack the dragon. Work is begun to retrieve the remains of both the giant and the dragon, but no official verification has ever been made regarding which organization performed the retrieval. Memoir, December 2003. The first case of white coronation syndrome is confirmed in Tokyo Shinjuku Ward. Memoir, July 2004. Humans continue to turn violent due to the white coronation syndrome, with fighting growing increasingly intense. With the cause of the disease still unclear, the infected are isolated and violent riots suppressed by force. Main thoroughfares are sealed and rail transportation is halted. Later, leading to all of Shinjuku being sealed off. At the same time, the prospect of asking American military for non-official intervention is considered, but government defers. Meanwhile, research begins on muscle particles obtained from the giant and the dragon, as well as a countermeasure for the white coronation syndrome. The research ultimately leads to the founding of Project Gestalt a decade later. Memoir, 2003, 06, 12, at 3 o'clock. A giant white humanoid weapon, referred to as weapon in the beginning, but giant now, falls from the sky in Shinjuku, Tokyo, bringing a huge amount of casualties in the area. Also, at the same time, an organism bearing likeness to that of a red dragon from now on, appears and was seen to engage the giant in combat. However, the principles and effects of its attacks remain to be determined. An emergency cabinet is formed, while the self-defense squad examined offensive methods against its targets. The giant that battled with the red dragon suddenly began to crumble. The cause remains unknown. The remaining dragon was shot down by the Japan Air Self-Defense Force, 6th Air Wing, 303rd Squadron. No records were made of who ordered the attack on the dragon. Also, the corpses of the giant and dragon were being collected, but even we could not get an official confirmation from the organization responsible for the collection. Memoir, 2003, on the 12th month. First case of coronation syndrome confirmed in Tokyo Shinjuku. Memoir, 2004. On the 7th month, more and more humans become vicious due to the white coronation syndrome. The conflict worsens in polluted areas, while the reason still remains unknown. The infected are separated, and the rioters neutralized. Main streets are blocked, and railroads are shut down, leading to the later lockdown of Shinjuku. At the same time, America offered military support unofficially, but the Japanese government remained on the fence about this issue. On one hand, research was being done with the government on the demonic element gained from the giant and the dragon, as well as a countermeasure to the white chlorination syndrome, leading to the Gestalt project 10 years later. My family has decided I am to be betrothed. I cannot resist, for I am but a tool. The man who became my husband possessed terribly cold eyes, but he too is a mere tool to be used so his family might prosper. He treats me well, in his own way, but I was still unable to properly respond to his kindness. One night he calls me to his chambers. Still thinking him a kind man, I go to him willingly. As he greets me, I stare at a beautiful white katana he holds in his hand. There once existed a cursed spear whose holder would inevitably meet a violent end. Eventually the weapon found its way to a mechanical automaton that possessed no soul. And though it was a mere machine, the spear delivered countless deaths upon us all the same. The automaton warred against mechanical weapons much like itself. It was crushed to death, burned to death, and thrown to its death from great heights. Yet each time the automaton was reborn and thrown into battle anew. The war became fiercer and more complicated. There were self-detonation suicide attacks, false operations, and betrayals by companions. Indeed, it seemed to the soulless automaton that it was inhabiting a kind of infinite, cyclical hell. Finally, the automaton died a final time in order to save its trusted companions, an act that precluded the possibility of ever returning to life again. As pangs of agony spread through its body, the automaton found its final rest